Now, the United Nations says 36 members of ethnic Yazidis held as slaves by the so-called Islamic State group have been freed in Iraq. The group includes men, women and children who were in captivity for nearly 3 years. Now, the UN believes up to 1,500 women and girls are still being held. Well, earlier I spoke to the UN Population Fund's Iraqi representative, Ramanathan Balakrishnan, about the release of the Yazidis.
Even as we are talking, a health team is basically evaluating them in terms of their physical and mental status. We would have more details perhaps in a day, and then they would accordingly be prescribed a particular plan of treatment, including psychosocial and psychological support and medical support.
How often do these releases take place?
The releases have been happening for a while, but then there have basically been trickles. You know, there have been 1 or 2 coming in now and then, and now there's a significant number in terms of the total number of people who have been released at one time.
Okay, so they've been held for what, up to 3 years. They've obviously been through some trauma. We'll come to the rehabilitation in a moment, but just tell us some of the stories you hear from these captives. What do they endure? They lose all their human rights, you know. They get treated as a commodity, and in the worst case scenario, they are treated as sexual slaves. You know, so there's a range of abuses which have been happening against them, starting from human rights abuse and then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the horrible sexual slavery which some of them have been subjected to. So how do you help them to recover from that then?
The first thing you do is basically give them time and space for them to acclimatize to the new situation, you know, and you provide some psychological first aid, which could be as simple as listening to them, you know, engaging in a normal conversation with them, making them feel comfortable in the surroundings, so on and so forth. And then comes where your specialized teams, including psychosocial experts, talk to them, and you know, they kind of, you know, find out as to what are the needs of a particular individual. Of course, depending upon the experiences undergone by the individual and their own individual mental resilience and makeup, they might require different treatments, different duration of treatment. So, and then you basically start working with them so that they can get back their confidence, get back their emotional resilience. And also in many cases, we have to support them strongly with medical support. So you have cases for which we need to support them for 3 months, and you have cases where we are supporting them since more than 1.5 years.
Do you have enough psychotherapists to help?
It is an issue. It is an issue, and we are dealing with it. However, it is well known that, you know, we do not have as many number of professionals whom we need to have given the current circumstances in Iraq. But we are trying to get support from other countries too on this.
Okay, and do we know how these 36 Yazidis were released? Do we know what circumstances this took place?
I'm not exactly in a position to discuss that, particularly because it might jeopardize the release of other people.